Well, here I am back, and we're at it again. You're listening to the Free the Animal podcast, brought to you by freetheanimal.com. I am your host, Richard Nikoley, and this is your jungle of self-direction, where the audacity and hubris to live by your own exclusive authority are celebrated, and those who complain about that are dismissed. We're a little bit practical, a little philosophical, and a little bit rock and roll. So join me weekly for half an hour of commentary and interviews with interesting people. You can follow me on Twitter, also Facebook, and you can check out the show notes at freetheanimal.com. Now, let's get to the show. I'm going to do a quick review of what happens at the blog, since this is a podcast that emanates from freetheanimal.com, the blog. And so, since I published podcast number 2 with Angela Coppola on the 17th of March, let's just do a quick review of what I published on the blog since then. On March 18th, this is 2016, depending on when you're listening, a completely saner bacon, egg, and fried potato breakfast. I'm a big fan of, eggs, hash browns, and bacon. You might get surprised at what you see there, and it's quite tasty. On March 21st, a low-fat, low-meat, 15-bean soup that will fill and satisfy you for weight loss. On March 22nd, just let life get in your way and embrace all experiments. So in this post, I went through kind of a rough recounting of a lot of the things I've experienced in the last year. And as people who follow me know, I tend to like to try a lot of things. I get bored. And so I don't think I'm right, and I don't try to just advance how right I am. I think I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong, and we're all wrong. And the objective is to become a little bit less wrong every day. I did a post. One of the folks that I've read for years and years and years is Peter, a UK veterinarian who blogs about, at a very, very deconstructed level in terms of metabolism, almost on an atomic level. He blogged about the curious effects of potatoes and satiation. So I had to answer that. Then on March 24th, probiotics is targeted antibiotics. This is an interesting thing, and I've had a relationship with Carl Seddon, the founder, creator, and manufacturer, with all of the self-invested capital for a company called Elixir Probiotic in the UK. I've had the relationship with him for about a year, and along that time, not only have we sold a fair number of probiotics, but he has done some guest posts. And this latest one is about the difference in your view of probiotics. So you may look at it as something where you just eat a lot of probiotics, but it's not really that way because you have so many in your gut. They're kind of like a drop in the bucket. But if you get the dosage high enough, then what takes place is that these good ones you're ingesting might create an environment that helps to rid you of certain bad actors along the way. So it is like whereas antibiotics kill everything, we don't have targeted antibiotics. So probiotics, in terms of your gut health, could be the best we've got in terms of targeting bad guys. On March 26th, I published a post that's kind of like tongue-in-cheek. Low-fat, best low-carb in 6-month trial and low carb advocate honestly admits it. This was a post by Bill Lagakos, Calories Proper blog. He's a good guy. And he's not just straight down the line, low carb or ketogenic. He's pretty honest in his dealings. The study he blogs about is one by Christopher Garner, who years ago did a matchup with again, low carb versus low fat. So this is another one. No, it's not earth shattering. I think the big takeaway for me, if I'm being completely honest, is that if you are, whether you're a low fat or a low carb advocate, probably dietary adherence is going to trump everything. But if you're just on the margins, sometimes low fat might be better for you. And it depends. And what was unique about this study, I think, is that there was heavy reliance upon good, real whole food, which Chris Gardner, he's actually a vegan, but he's an honest one. And so he basically took a hand in making sure that everybody was eating good food within the low carbohydrate or the low fat realm. So it wasn't just, you're not just looking at macronutrients, you're looking at food quality and micronutrient nutrition as well. It's pretty interesting. Take a look. For those of you who wish to support the program, there's basically two primary ways. One of which is the already mentioned Elixir probiotic. It is quite unique, and it is unique because I'm in contact with the creator, the inventor, the manufacturer. All the equipment is his own. He literally watches over the manufacturer. This is not something farmed out where he just gets various probiotics that are mass produced and packages them and puts his own label on them. It's not like that. So to look at that, go to elixirfta.com. And it's not Elixir, it is Elixir, and it's FTA, Think Free the Animal, my blog.com. elixirfta.com. So the other way to support this program is by your regular shopping on Amazon if you do that. If you don't worry about it. But if you're an Amazon shopper and you think you might want to support my blog without actually spending any money other than going to Amazon and buying what you already buy, then when you go to Amazon, all you have to do is type in amazonfta.com. And Amazon will graciously give me about 7 to 8% of what you buy, and it costs you nothing. When you hit that link, it's the same Amazon. The prices aren't increased, nothing. So if that is for you, then that's the easy way for you to do it, amazonfta.com. So now let's get into my interview with Tim Steele. Tim has a blog. Tim and I go way back. He has a blog called Vegetable Farm, and instead of how you would normally spell farm, the farm is P-H-A-R-M. We're going to be talking about some dietary issues, primarily from the standpoint of potatoes, and also about Tim's new book coming out. And so welcome to the show, Tim.
Hey, Richard. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. Good to have you. And you're coming to us all the way from the Northern Territories. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I live in North Pole, Alaska, which is a little town near Fairbanks. And we're, maybe 100 miles or so from the Arctic Circle. So right now we're heading into summer months. And it's light till about 9 o'clock at night now. We're getting out of winter, but we still got a lot of snow, so we got a little ways to go before summer hits. But
yes,
good time of year, a lot of daylight to play out in the snow in.
So you're starting to get heat waves, like where it hits 30 degrees and stuff, huh?
Yeah, in fact, yesterday it was up to about 40 and things started melting, which is always a good sign around here. But yeah, right now 30 and 40 is a heat wave.
All right. So tell us the background. I know, just so readers know, we're both, ex military guys. I was a Navy guy and Tim was an Air Force guy. And I think that's the kind of where some of your health issues began.
Yeah, I guess, I joined the Air Force right out of high school, turned 18 in boot camp kind of thing. And, while you're in the military, weight's really not an issue because you're exercising a lot. They're kind of feeding you what they want you to eat, and you're young, so you have a good metabolism and you're active. And then as you start to age and get up into your 30s, it's for some of us it's a little bit harder, and keeping the weight off was starting to become an issue for me. And once I retired from the Air Force, I was about 40 years old, and I just couldn't even control my weight anymore, and just ballooned up really fast and got the whole metabolic syndrome thing going on, pre-diabetes and high cholesterol, and I was having gout attacks very frequently, like once a month, and everything I tried just made things harder and harder to maintain the weight, and even maintaining the weight wasn't even the focus anymore because that ship had sailed. And I was just trying to be healthy, and I was taking all the drugs that they were prescribing me. I was on, like, at one time maybe 5 or 6 different pills daily, and and I was doing what the doctors were telling me, which was eat lean meat and eat whole grain breads. And so you're trying to eat these whole grain pastas and whole grain breads and lean chicken breast, and you're just getting worse and worse. And it wasn't really till I turned all that advice upside down and started eating lots of red meat and lots of vegetables and no grains whatsoever, and then all my health problems just started disappearing really quick.
Mm-hmm. Now that was like a paleo, or was it low carb, or was it paleo low carb?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. At first, I went and found Atkins again because I remember reading that, a long time back, and it just didn't make sense to me because I was using my deep fat fryer to fry chicken, and it just didn't make sense that was the healthiest way. And then I came across paleo, and I think it was Mark's Daily Apple was the first paleo site that I really came across, and just started reading through there and getting more interested in exercising and getting more on a whole food routine, rather avoiding all processed foods. And it was really, I think it's the whole food issue that really makes a big difference for people.
Mm-hmm. What year was that?
That was about 2010 when I started really in earnest, trying to get my health under control.
So what weight, just as I know there's the health issues too, and you can speak to that, but what weight did you kind of get started at, and where did you finish up?
Yeah, at one time I weighed myself and I was at 250 pounds.
And what's your height?
I'm 5'11".
Okay.
Yep. And I weighed myself. I think the whole time I was in the Air Force, I stayed right around 190, 200, which was overweight and probably technically obese, but it was okay for the Air Force. That was a weight that was all right to be. And once I retired, the weight just started coming on, and the health problems started coming on. Yeah, I remember one time I weighed and I was 250, and I think that was I kind of quit weighing myself after that because I was a little bit in denial, like a lot of people get.
Right.
And I tried some kind of diet, and I could get down to like 230, and then you'd fall off of it, and you'd be right back up, and it just nothing ever seemed to click doing the traditional diets, where you're counting calories, but you're still eating really crappy food.
Right. Yeah, crap. The Weight Watcher type things. So, and then you got down to what on your, whole foods kind of paleo-ish, kind of low carb-ish deal?
Yeah. Okay. So I started Mark's Daily Apple, the Primal Blueprint, following that as close as I could, which is a really good plan for most people. I think for most people, an introductory diet to whole food eating, Primal Blueprint can't be beat. And it got me from in the 250 range down to well under 200 pounds. And it got me off all of my medicines that I was on. So by, within 6 months, I was quite a bit under 200 pounds, and I wasn't taking any medicine at that point, so I was just ecstatic. But I still felt like I needed to lose another, 30 pounds, and that last 30 pounds is tough. You hit those stalls,
Yes.
and you start reading about low carb and all that, so you think, well, you're just not low carbing hard enough, and so you start cutting out all the carbs. You cut out
You're
fruit,
not doing
cut out
it right.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's just the natural human tendency to feel that way, and at that time, low carb was, all the rage, and everybody's talking about even going as far as being in ketosis. And so I tried that. I cut out where I was eating probably zero carbs a day and eating lots of fat, and it just didn't work for me. I couldn't exercise. I had sore muscles and all that, and I think lost maybe another couple pounds, but it just didn't feel right to me. Then Paul Jaminet came out with his perfect health diet and his safe starch debates and all that. So I started following that and started adding more potatoes and rice and even beans. Though he didn't like beans, I added beans, and things at that point things started evening out even better, and I started losing weight again and got down to probably 175, 170 range, and I was feeling really good and exercising a lot. And then it was I kind of remembered Chris Voigt's experiment with the potatoes. Remember, he was the potato commissioner, and he went on this all potato diet. And Stephen Guyanet, he interviewed Chris Voigt and had some good blog posts about how the potato diet worked for him. So I tried it, and I did it 14 days, and I lost about 10 or 15 pounds during those 14 days. It was incredible.
That was, I think, probably just about 3 years ago when you approached me at Free the Animal, and I guess you'd already been doing some stuff on Marxist's forums and whatnot. But we kind of kicked off somewhat of a blog marathon about potatoes back then, and it was quite.
I was talking with the guys on the forums a lot about it, and everybody was trying it, and people were loving it. And I just kind of wanted to get a bit wider audience, and that's when I hit you up about it, and you took the bait. Now it was fun, and then, but it kind of broadened our horizons. I think, if anything, just potatoes were kind of our gateway drug into the world of starchy foods, and then we came across resistant starch, and really.
Go ahead.
It's just been a long, fun ride talking about it. So I just decided to put it all together in a book.
Yes, and we're just about to get to that. So what was very interesting was the potato. Is in my recollection, and you even did some experimental collaborations that got reported on the blog with one of the readers, Nikki, where you were, testing different things and counting and measuring and even doing the blood glucose and all of those things. I'll put those posts up in the links. But we were trying to figure out, why is it that if you just count the calories, that the weight loss seems to be greater than the caloric intake? And I remember we were batting around the idea of resistant starch maybe being the key there. But it still didn't really make perfect sense.
Yeah, and I never really got into counting calories that much because it just never seemed to work for me, especially back in the days when I used to try to fast. Because if counting calories worked, if you just quit eating for a day or two, like everybody was recommending with the intermittent fasting, it should be a mathematical calculation to how much weight you lose. But I found it didn't work at all like that for me. I think, once you start cutting out too many calories, then what they call the starvation mode starts to kick in,
right.
Whatever it is. And but with potatoes, I think it works completely opposite than regular fasting and with counting calories, and the weight loss is a lot faster. The one thing with potatoes is there are what everybody looks at as anti-nutrients because it takes away some of the available carbohydrate from your digestion, but I think that's actually one of the benefits to potatoes, because there are some inhibitors that inhibit amylase production, which means some of the starch is going to bypass your normal digestion and become food for your gut flora. So sort of like resistant starch, the potato makes its own resistant starch even if the potato is cooked.
Wow. So now let's just segue right from there into the book. The book is, I believe you named it The Potato Hack. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. The Potato Hack.
And it's just out now. I think people can get it in print from some. Go ahead and tell us where they can get it and when it's coming to Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon now. You can go there, just type in The Potato Hack, and you'll see it. And there's a really good look inside preview, which is almost the whole book. It seems like it's got a look inside for almost all the chapters, but it gives you like the first 2 or 3 pages of each chapter and the table of contents. So you'll see it's a lot more than just a quack diet to eat potatoes and lose a couple of pounds. But it's also, talks about the science behind why it works and why potatoes are just a good addition to your diet. And then also a big section on resistant starch, potato starch, using it as a supplement, some of the history of potatoes, and even a section on how to grow your own potatoes. I think it's a really good book. It ended up being 275 pages.
Wow.
And there's lots of good pictures all throughout. Were taken by my aunt, who is a award-winning photographer. She did really good. She did the cover picture of the potato on the cover. So yeah, she did really good. And there a while back, that picture of a potato that sold for $1 million. So we're hoping that somebody offers to buy one of these pictures for $1 million too.
You also do you go into some of the history of the potato in terms of various populations who for some sort of need, being refugee or wars and stuff like that, existed almost exclusively on potatoes. Can you go into that?
Yeah, the history of the potato is pretty interesting. People spread out of Africa around the world, and it's like the potato was the very last starch and the very last place that they looked down in South America. And once they found it, then soon the Spanish explorers were there, and they brought it back with them to Europe because they saw how these populations were thriving on potatoes. And when it got back to Europe, it was kind of frowned upon. Nobody wanted to eat it. I think because the leaves were poisonous, and it had to be cooked a certain way and all that. So it didn't really get any popularity for about the first 200 or 300 years. And then in France, they started growing it, and they were using it to feed animals at first, and then prisoners and people in hospitals. And then during the wars, there was a lot of people who were starving, and they just ate potatoes. And pretty soon, around the 1700s, it became the leading vegetable that everybody was eating all throughout Europe and England, Ireland, and they became really dependent on the potato, and that was kind of their downfall because they only had 1 or 2 varieties of potato that they were growing. So when the blight hit, it wiped out entire crops and left a lot of people to starve.
Right. Too many eggs in one basket. But what the interesting lesson is that a person can actually live exclusively on potatoes and water and actually do quite well. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think long term people can live on potatoes, and I think even for years at a time, you could just eat potatoes and water, like you said, and do just fine. And one thing with the vegetarian diet, they're always worried about it. It's low in vitamin B12, but a potato diet creates so much gut flora, and I think that your gut flora produces B12 for you anyway. So with the high fiber potato diet, I think you'd probably be good all around.
Interesting. Now, how about, and so that you just did talk about the nutrition, but I've actually run some nutrition myself, and I find that if you look at a nutrition graph for a given quantity of potato and the same calorie of red meat, it's almost, there's a few nutrients that the meat has that the potato doesn't, but on the other hand, there's even more that the potato has that the meat doesn't, especially when you start talking about minerals. And one of the reasons for that is that red meat is about 50% of the calories in red meat are fat, and fat has almost nothing in terms of vitamins and minerals in it. At least, the kind of extracted, processed fat. So you're starting off kind of like with a disadvantage. But it's not to say that you shouldn't have meat or animal products, but it is something towards dispelling the myth or the rumor that potatoes are just a bag of glucose and there's not much nutrients in it. Empty calories.
Yeah, definitely. And look at the price too. Look at the price of a pound of beef and a pound of potatoes, and that makes you a believer right there.
Right. So the book is on Amazon. And and it's the potato hack, and so this basically is going to be somebody's guide for how to do the diet, how to educate themselves about potatoes, grow potatoes, prepare potatoes, look at pictures of potatoes, and everything potato. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. There's even a recipe section for cooking potatoes without using any oil or any other ingredients.
Yes, and I've been doing that a lot myself too, seeing how little bit of fat I can use, or even none. And of course, a lot of my soups and things like that have potatoes in them. I highly recommend it. It's really nice to be able to eat them. They were always part of our meals growing up. My dad's a German, and after World War II, he had a period of time when he was a kid when he lived off of scrounging the fields after harvest for leftover potatoes.
Yeah. And Paul Jaminet's Perfect Health Diet calls for a pound of safe starch a day, and if you use potatoes for that, I think most people will see a big difference in their weight and their health. And
yes.
White rice is okay, but most of our white rice here is fortified with all the the iron and vitamins that the government thinks we need that we're not getting from our food. But that's what's one thing great about a potato is it's not fortified. And there's really no way to fortify a potato the way they do wheat and rice. The potato is just a whole food. It's comes right out of the ground and you eat it. You can eat it skin raw. Whereas unlike rice and wheat, they have to polish it and remove the bran, remove the oil so it can store and all that. But yeah, potatoes are just a perfect whole food.
So now for one of the things you and I have been discussing on and off lately in email and actually in some of the exchanges and some of the comment threads on my blog is alternatives for people who either don't like potatoes or they can't tolerate potatoes and so on. And so even though your book is about potatoes, there are other things a person can use that we've talked about recently. And of course, beans is one, legumes is one. But you've also been doing some stuff with oats as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I really enjoy oats. I think oats are probably also another one of those foods that you could subsist on for a long period of time. I haven't looked into it that much, but I know, in Ireland during the potato famine, I think oats replaced the potatoes after they couldn't grow potatoes anymore. But oats, and there again, it's like try to get the wholest oats that you can, like the oat groats or the Steele cut oats, and eat them a couple times a week for breakfast. I mean, they're just really good food, good source of fiber and resistance.
I got to tell you, that has been one of the coolest things. I mean, even though I love potatoes and everything, but and of course I love beans, and I make like the 15 bean soups and things. But that thing that I never knew that I'd had Steele cut oats before, but not much. And I never really cared that much for, plain old oatmeal, rolled oats. But those oat groats that you can get, Bob's Red Mill has them organic, and they're ridiculously cheap. I mean, I think I got 4 of the, their standard size packages for like $12. I mean, it's crazy, right? They ought to it's like beans and potatoes. It's like it's free. Right, it's as close to.
Yeah, I think in the life of an oat, they pick them from the field and then they send them into a kind of a processing line where they remove the bran and they steam them so they kind of swell up, and then the very first piece of that assembly line is the oat groat, and they package those. So there's absolutely no additional processing done to it other than to clean the chaff off of it. And yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
And it's
I
funny,
cook
you
them
read the directions on the box and they say to cook them for like, I don't know, an hour.
50 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, but I like to cook them for like 10, 15 minutes. I like them really chewy because they're already somewhat pre-cooked
Yeah.
because they had to steam them, to get them to that. It's definitely not a raw oat, it's because that would be called a oat berry, but these oat groats are somewhat steamed, so they're kind of cooked already, and yeah, you can, yeah, I don't cook them hardly at all. I like to cook them like 10, 15 minutes. And then just before they're done, I like to pour in about a quarter cup of oat bran and let that kind of clump up and soak up any of the water that's left. That makes a really good breakfast cereal.
I cook them a little bit longer than that. I cook them about 30 minutes. But they're still very al dente,
Yeah.
when they come out, and I really, really like that. And I do both some oat bran and also some wheat germ as well, and it makes a really, really great dish. I really, really like it.
But I have a new blog, Potato Hack, just potatohack.com. It's a WordPress blog.
Okay.
And I'm putting the potato blogs on there, and it's a little bit easier to access people just wanting to read about the potato hack and potato stuff,
Okay.
So potatohack.com is an easy one. And then we also have a Facebook group. So if you just type the potato hack in Facebook in the search bar, you'll find the potato hack is kind of a book fan page.
Okay.
And a lot of people are writing in with their results from the potato hack, and pretty interesting. A lot of fun.
Great. And so then, and also the book is on Amazon, and they can get either a print version or the Kindle version. So, well, with that, Tim, I want to let you get back to enjoying the coming summer heat wave there in Alaska. And as always, nice talking with you. Thank you for checking in with us. Any last words?
No, just like say, eat your potatoes. Won't go wrong.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk. We'll catch you again. Coming up, a few words about peasant diets and geopolitics.
Hi, this is Carl Seddon from Elixir Probiotic here in the United Kingdom. No doubt you've already heard of us by now, but if you're new to Elixir, then let me quickly highlight just one of the features that makes it so effective. Elixir Probiotic has a daily dosage of 500 billion bacterial units. That's 500 billion, about 50 times the strength of the average 10 billion CFU probiotic. That's incredibly high. Or is it? No, in my opinion, it's only just approaching a large enough dosage. Why? Well, the human gut contains anywhere from 50 to 100 trillion microbes. So a conventional 10 billion CFU probiotic is being outmatched by a ratio of up to 10,000 to 1. That's like one man versus an entire town. But with Elixir's 50 times larger dose, now we can make a noticeable impact. Now there are many more features which you can learn about on freetheanimal.com. Gastric resistant capsules, our hermetic packaging technology, Elixir short course approach, and plenty of user feedback. Oh, one last thing before I go. We've just released our new blend, version 2, and the feedback has been outstanding. If you want to check out the latest blend and all the information regarding that, then visit elixirfta.com. That's elixafta.com. That URL will take you direct to the V2 blend and make sure you go direct to the most up-to-date version of Elixir. That URL again is elixafta.com. Thank you.
So wasn't that good? Tim is such a great guy, and even before he started blogging and before he wrote this book, he has spent years giving hundreds, thousands of hours of his time helping people. So what's interesting is, to me, and he has influenced me a great deal, and my thought continues to evolve on that. But I thought I would go over that a little bit, and something I've been talking about. You see, since I began potato hacking recently, I stumbled from potato hack intermittently to peasant hack most of the rest of the time. And I haven't written about it because I was simply too engaged in thinking about it. I'm inexorably drawn to more of one might call peasant food, though, as it exists in the modern world. Of course, it was not always like that. No more than luscious ribeyes or baby back ribs or racks of lamb were paleo fare. Everyone is living various fantasies. I'm only trying to be a bit less fantastical over increasingly shorter periods of time. Being right since forever is for suckers and their choirs of sycophants. There's no need to be upset about any of this. Everyone has to eat. Kings and court got fat. Peasants fared well often, but it often sucked too. Some starved to death, some had lots of kids, and some got all sorts of pathogenic disease, some of which spawned epidemics due to dense urbanization. To my curiosity, and perhaps it's the most chewing on an idea I've done recently, what if, not totally screwed, peasants made the best they could out of the smallest they had? Could it be that they created the most sustainable and suitable food concoctions for humans because it integrated with a decent slice of life, along with a general optimism? Like, hey, this isn't bad optimism. It's a serious question. Give it a fair number of brain cells. I think optimism is a key element because resignation gets you nowhere. Resignation, fear, and trepidation get you into default positions where one then focuses on taking from others or supports the promise that others will take from others in exchange for spoils. Optimism makes do, and when you do that, you're also more motivated to improve your lot. Think of that in microcosm terms and not modern presidential election political terms. The steel, aluminum, gunpowder, lead, blood, and death of World War II represent a crazy display of human destruction and the potential for a lot more. And there often wasn't even adequate levels of peasant food as attentions were turned to real estate borders, political power influence, and large choirs cheering hopeful winners. One can view Western civilization as the raw audacity and technological ability to wreak massive destruction, alongside the compassion, the competence, and goodwill to feed millions and billions. It's a machine with many bits, pieces, and levels, a philosophy of reason and logic, and often a well-maintained lifeboat. It's a mix of seeming contradictions, fueled by lots of best hopes while planning and executing for the worst. But biological organisms aren't machines. The former evolved. They weren't invented and patented. Their maintenance and sound operation require nutrition inputs, social inputs, autonomy of thought, and freedom to act, to gain and keep values. Machines get new parts, are improved at the next iteration of development, or even get replaced as the world's best buggy whip, supplanted by something entirely different. None of this would have happened had the peasants or working class not had adequate nutrition. But in settling for bread and circuses, in the words of Roman poet Juvenal, did humanity sow the seeds of its health destruction? Factory machines don't care. They didn't evolve. Slavery is their raison d'être. Humans evolved, but did they evolve to require increasing levels of highly palatable food in abundance, made increasingly palatable not only by industrial food engineers, but by home chefs, including moi-même? Or did they evolve to get by pretty damn well in a paucity of omnivory, and did they fare better with brief interludes of autophagic cleansing that we call intermittent fasting? These and other questions of nutrition and diet are what I'll be exploring as we march forward on enough nutrition to get us where we want to go while freeing us to get out of the kitchen, supermarket, and restaurant. It promises to make our wallets heavier, too. And that will wrap it up for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and join me again next week for another toolkit in surviving the coming zombie apocalypse.